What happens when Hollywood's most enigmatic star decides it's time to tell the truth? What if the carefully crafted images, the public personas, the whispered rumors that have followed her for decades, were suddenly laid bare for the world to see? This is the story of Diane Lane, the woman who has been at the center of Hollywood's most tantalizing secrets, and tonight, she's ready to tell them all. From the shadows of the big screen to the most private, forbidden moments behind closed doors, Diane's story isn't just about fame. It's about desire, power, and the passionate encounters with some of the most famous men to ever grace Hollywood. This is not a fairy tale. This is real. The raw, untold truth of a woman who refused to hide behind her public image. The time has come, and the truth will shock you. For decades, the greatest names in Hollywood have kept their most intimate secrets locked away. Behind every red carpet smile and every carefully rehearsed interview, there's been a wall built by publicists, managers, and agents, ensuring that nothing too personal, too raw, ever escapes into the public eye. But Diane Lane, she's never been one to conform, never one to sit idly by and let her story be told for her. Diane has always been the one to break the rules, to defy the conventions, to tell the truth, even when the truth was too dangerous to speak. Hollywood has long been a place of secrets, secrets that stay hidden beneath the surface, shielded by glitzy facades and perfectly polished images. But Diane has always stood apart. She has never been willing to let others dictate the narrative of her life, to let the world decide who she is based on what they see on the surface. For Diane, the story was always deeper than the headlines, the photo shoots, and the magazine covers. Her story wasn't just about playing roles. It was about living them. It was about the passion that coursed through her veins and the people who have touched her heart, body, and soul. Now, at 60, Diane Lane is at the point in her life where secrets stop being shields and start becoming chains. She's choosing to break free from them. Tonight, she chooses to reveal all. For years, Hollywood's elite circles have whispered about Diane. It started innocently enough. A question here, a rumor there. The conversations grew more frequent, more detailed, and more intense. And at the center of them all was Diane, one of Hollywood's most sought-after and enigmatic women. But tonight, those whispers are about to be silenced. Diane is naming names. 7 names. 7 men. 7 unforgettable moments. These aren't just men she worked with. These are the men who shaped her in ways that could never be captured in a movie script. These are the men who have seen her in her most vulnerable, passionate, and raw states. They've shared a part of her that no one else could understand. And now, Diane Lane is ready to tell the truth. The whole truth. Richard Gere. When you think of Richard Gere, what comes to mind? His smoldering gaze? That perfect blend of vulnerability and raw masculinity that made him one of the most irresistible stars of his generation? He's the face that has graced billboards, movie posters, and magazine covers. But what Diane remembers isn't just the heartthrob millions adored. It's the side of him few ever saw. Their first meeting wasn't under the bright lights of a major set. It was during rehearsals for the Cotton Club in the early 80s. Diane, still barely out of her teens, had an innocence about her, a certain fresh-faced youthfulness that, to the outside world, might have seemed untouchable. She had been raised in a world where everything was about appearances, about making it. Yet Richard Gere didn't care about any of that. He didn't see her as just the next rising star. No, Richard saw something in her, something no one else could see. And when he looked at her, it was as though he saw right through her, past the bright lights and cameras. It was as though he saw her soul. There was an undeniable pull between them. In rehearsals, as their eyes met across the room, something flickered. Something beyond the ordinary connection of co-stars. Diane was drawn in, entranced by the way Richard's gaze seemed to strip away every layer she had built around herself. His presence was magnetic, and it wasn't long before she realized that this wasn't just professional admiration. It was something far deeper, their first kiss. Perhaps it was meant to be fleeting, a moment that would pass as nothing but a physical interaction. But for Diane, it was a defining moment. It wasn't just about attraction. It was about an awakening. Their affair began as something forbidden. Both knew that it was something that could ruin them. It wasn't meant to last, just a secret that would remain hidden between the two of them. But secrets like that don't stay secret forever. They seep out into the corners of your life, making their way into your thoughts, your heart, your every waking moment. For months, Diane and Richard shared stolen moments. Quiet hotel rooms, midnight phone calls, late-night rendezvous that left them breathless, desperate for more. Diane discovered a side of herself she never knew existed. She found power in surrendering, in losing control, in letting go of the carefully constructed image she had fought so hard to maintain. Richard taught her how to desire without apology, to take what you wanted, when you wanted it. When it ended, it wasn't as dramatic as one might imagine. They both moved on to other projects, other relationships. Yet even years later, whenever their paths crossed in public, there was always that flicker, a flash of recognition, an unspoken acknowledgement of what had passed between them. It wasn't love, it was lust. A hunger that, once it's awakened, never truly dies. Mickey Rourke. And then there was Mickey Rourke. Mickey wasn't like Richard. Mickey was untamed. He was chaos wrapped in a man's body, a force of nature, a whirlwind of energy and unpredictability. When Diane first met him, she was already a woman who had experienced passion. She had seen the soft, slow burn of Richard's touch. But Mickey? Mickey was a firestorm. He didn't seduce with words. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to consume everything in its path. Mickey was magnetic. Not because he tried to be, but because he simply was. The world didn't define him. He defined himself. And anyone who got too close was swept into his orbit, whether they were ready for it or not. Their first encounter wasn't planned. It wasn't slow. It was impulsive, driven by an energy neither of them could deny. Diane was swept up in it, completely lost in the moment. And what followed was nothing short of transformative. Mickey didn't just want her body, he wanted her to surrender, to be lost in the madness of it all. With him, sex was raw, untamed. It was the kind of passion that didn't ask for permission. It just happened. In those stolen moments, Diane was freed from the constraints of the world she lived in. She was no longer the image people expected her to be. She was just a woman, caught in a powerful, unstoppable force. Mickey's energy was both thrilling and terrifying, and like everything that burns hot and fast, their affair couldn't last forever. But the intensity of it stayed with Diane, even long after they had gone their separate ways. Christopher Walken. But not all encounters were as wild or as spontaneous. With Christopher Walken, Diane was introduced to a different kind of passion, a kind that was methodical, calculated, precise. Walken wasn't about the chaos of Mickey or the gentle allure of Richard. No, Walken was deliberate. Every movement, every word was part of a slow, deliberate seduction. With him, Diane felt both exposed and cherished. His gaze was penetrating, and when he looked at her, it was as though he could see into the deepest part of her being. Unlike the other men, Christopher didn't rush. He didn't need to. He took his time, made every touch feel significant. Every moment with him was measured, like each second mattered. Diane was consumed by the intensity of his presence, the quiet yet relentless way he made her feel alive in a way she hadn't experienced before. Their affair didn't burn out quickly. It was a slow, lingering connection that, though brief, left Diane questioning everything she thought she knew about desire. Sean Penn. Then came Sean Penn. Sean Penn wasn't about subtlety. He wasn't about playing by the rules. He was wild, untamed, and completely consumed by the passion he felt. He wasn't interested in taking his time or playing games. When he walked into a room, the temperature shifted. Diane found herself drawn into his orbit, unsure of how to navigate the chaos he brought with him. With Sean, there were no rules, no boundaries. He took everything, and she gave it all. There was no hesitation between them, no questioning, no time to second-guess what was happening. They were two forces, colliding, and the impact left them both changed. What happened between them was so intense that it left a mark on Diane. Sean didn't just give her pleasure. He gave her the rawest, most unfiltered version of herself. There was no artifice, no playing roles. With Sean, there was only the present moment, only the release of everything she'd been holding back for so long. Their affair burned bright, but it was brief, wild. But the intensity with which they loved, no, desired each other, left a scar on Diane that would last forever. It wasn't about commitment. It wasn't about love in the traditional sense. It was something darker, something raw. And in a way, it was everything she never knew she needed. Kevin Costner. And then there was Kevin Costner. The all-American golden boy. The man whose reputation as the perfect leading man seemed untouchable. At the time, Kevin had everything. He was the Hollywood heartthrob, the hero everyone rooted for. His image was flawless, a stark contrast to the dangerous men who had come before him in Diane's life. But beneath that polished exterior, Diane discovered a man with desires far darker than anyone had ever realized. Kevin was calculated. He was always in control, both of himself and of every situation around him. His charm wasn't immediate or forceful. No, Kevin was a master of the slow burn. He knew how to lure someone in, how to make them feel wanted without ever saying a word. Robert Duvall. And then there was Robert Duvall, a completely different kind of man. Where the others had relied on physical magnetism or raw, untamed energy, Robert's appeal was cerebral. It was his mind that drew Diane in, not his looks or the power he projected. Robert didn't need to seduce with words. No, he used silence, observation, and an unwavering focus that made Diane feel seen in ways she had never been seen before. Their connection wasn't instant, but it was undeniable. What began as a professional admiration evolved into something far deeper. With Robert, every conversation felt like an intellectual challenge. Every moment, every touch was carefully considered. Nicolas Cage. And finally, there was Nicolas Cage, a whirlwind, an unpredictable force that swept Diane off her feet when she least expected it. With Nicolas, Diane never knew what she was going to get. One moment he was calm and quiet. The next, he was a storm, unpredictable and wild. What drew Diane to Nicolas wasn't his usual charm or his physical presence. It was the chaos he brought with him. He didn't follow the rules, didn't care about the expectations. With Nicolas, everything was unexpected. Every kiss, every touch, every moment spent together was marked by the uncertainty of what would come next. For Diane, this unpredictability was intoxicating. It was a high that kept her coming back for more, even though she never knew what version of Nicolas she was going to get. Sometimes he was gentle, almost tender. Other times he was wild, unpredictable, making every encounter feel like an exhilarating ride into the unknown. At 60, Diane Lane has lived through Hollywood's most carefully guarded secrets. She's experienced passion with some of the most desired men in the world. These 7 encounters shaped her understanding of desire, power, and the complexities of navigating public image versus private hunger. Diane's journey isn't just about love or lust. it's about navigating the spaces between those extremes and discovering who she truly is in the process. Each man taught her something different about herself, about what she was willing to give and what she wasn't. Some encounters were brief, others left deeper marks. But all of them were real, raw, and unforgettable. These men didn't just shape her sexual history, they shaped her journey as a woman who had to navigate the blurred lines between fame, desire, and identity. If Diane's story has captivated you, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned for more untold Hollywood secrets and let us know your thoughts on these revelations. What other stories do you think Hollywood's legends are keeping hidden? Share your thoughts below.